The drama surrounding this fight did not begin with the first press conference or even with the announcement itself. It began the moment whispers started circulating that a legitimate, fully sanctioned boxing match between Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul was not just a rumor, not just a marketing ploy, but an actual event penciled into the calendar. December the 19th, a real date, real gloves, real consequences. For some, it sounded absurd. For others, it sounded dangerous. And for a small but growing group, it sounded like the most fascinating gamble modern boxing had seen in years. On paper, the fight looks almost insulting to the sport. Anthony Joshua is a two-time world heavyweight champion, an Olympic gold medalist, a man who once carried the hopes of British boxing on his shoulders and filled stadiums with ease. He is 6'6", a natural heavyweight who has spent his adult life fighting men who could end a contest with a single mistake. Across the ring stands Jake Paul, a YouTuber turned boxer, a man whose rise has been fueled by controversy, confidence, and a carefully curated path through professional boxing. His record shows wins, yes, but against opposition many consider vastly inferior to a former heavyweight king. The size gap is obvious. The experience gap is enormous. The danger feels undeniable. That is why so many fans, analysts, and former fighters reacted with disbelief. They called it reckless. They called it a mismatch. Some even questioned how such a fight could be sanctioned at all. The fear was not abstract or exaggerated. Heavyweights operate under different rules of reality. One clean punch can shut the lights off. One lapse in judgment can change a life. And the idea of Jake Paul standing across from Anthony Joshua, exchanging punches under professional rules, felt too many like watching someone walk willingly into a storm. Yet boxing has never been a sport that survives purely on logic. It thrives on narratives, on risk, on the thin line between certainty and chaos. And, as shocking as this matchup appears, the closer you look, the more complicated the picture becomes. Because this is not an exhibition. This is not a scripted spectacle. By all credible accounts, this is a genuine boxing match. And that fact alone changes everything. For Jake Paul, this fight represents the ultimate test of his transformation. For years, critics dismissed him as a novelty act, a social media disruptor playing dress-up in boxing gloves. But behind the scenes, he has trained relentlessly, investing time, money, and effort into becoming something more than a headline. He has sparred real fighters, hired respected coaches, and treated boxing not as a hobby but as a profession. That does not erase the gap between him and Joshua, but it does complicate the certainty with which people dismiss him. Paul enters this fight with something Joshua no longer fully has: freedom. There are no expectations placed on him by the boxing establishment, no legacy to defend, no belts that once defined him. If he loses, most will say it was inevitable. If he survives, if he competes, if he even has moments of success, the narrative shifts dramatically in his favor. That psychological freedom is not insignificant in a sport where pressure can weigh heavier than fists. Anthony Joshua, by contrast, steps into this bout carrying enormous baggage. Once seen as the future of heavyweight boxing, his career has been shaped by soaring highs and crushing lows. He has tasted championship glory, unified titles, and global adoration. He has also tasted defeat, doubt, and devastating knockouts. His recent losses, particularly the brutal nature of his knockout defeat, have left fans and pundits questioning whether he is still the same fighter. In boxing, once that question is asked, it never truly goes away. This fight, then, becomes a strange crossroads. For Joshua, it is supposed to be a statement, a reminder of who he is, a chance at redemption and reassertion. But it is also a trap, because anything less than domination will be viewed as failure. If he wins by decision, questions will follow. If he struggles, criticism will explode. And if the unthinkable happens, if he loses, the damage to his legacy could be irreparable. That pressure creates urgency, and urgency can be dangerous. Joshua knows that many believe he must destroy Jake Paul to justify stepping into the ring with him at all. That belief may push him to seek an early knockout, to force the issue, to prove a point rather than let the fight unfold naturally. In doing so, he risks abandoning the patience and discipline that once made him great. And in boxing, impatience is often punished. Jake Paul's path to any form of success in this fight is narrow, but it exists. He is the smaller man, but that can work in his favor if used intelligently. Speed, movement, and footwork become his weapons. He cannot stand in front of Joshua and trade. He cannot admire his work. He cannot afford even a moment of complacency. His strategy must revolve around distance, angles, and volume. He must make Joshua miss, frustrate him, and force him to reset again and again. Paul has openly talked about surviving the early rounds, about avoiding that one devastating shot. He understands the reality of what he is facing. One clean punch from Joshua could end the night instantly. But boxing history is filled with moments where superior fighters were undone by impatience, by overconfidence, or by an opponent who refused to play the expected role. Joshua has been caught before. He has been stunned by fighters few gave a chance. He has been knocked out by men who were supposed to be inferior. Those moments did not erase his greatness, but they did expose vulnerability. And vulnerability is all an underdog ever looks for. If Jake Paul can keep the fight at long range, pump the jab, move laterally, and throw in combination, he might begin to sap Joshua's energy. Heavyweights are not built to chase endlessly. If Joshua swings and misses repeatedly, frustration can creep in. If frustration turns into recklessness, openings appear. That is the gamble Paul is banking on. Of course, executing such a plan against a fighter of Joshua's caliber is far easier to describe than to accomplish. Joshua understands distance. He understands timing. He understands how to cut off the ring and impose his size. His reach alone presents a problem Paul has never encountered before. And unlike previous opponents, Joshua's punches carry a weight that changes the equation entirely. There is also the psychological warfare at play. Jake Paul thrives on chaos. He thrives on doubt and disruption. His confidence borders on arrogance, but it is also genuine. He believes he can shock the world. That belief fuels him. It allows him to take risks others would not dare. And in a fight where the odds are stacked so heavily against him, risk may be his only ally. For Joshua, the mental battle is just as intense. He cannot underestimate Paul. Doing so would be catastrophic. Yet he cannot treat him with too much respect either, or he risks allowing the fight to drag into dangerous territory. The balance he must strike is delicate. Control without complacency. Aggression without recklessness. Precision without panic. The early rounds will tell a story of their own. If Joshua comes out calm, composed, and patient, using his jab and controlling the center of the ring, the fight could end quickly and brutally. We have seen him do this before, most notably against Francis Ngannou, where his power and timing produced a horrifying knockout. The same fate could easily await Jake Paul if he missteps. But if Joshua rushes, if he loads up, if he seeks to end a fight in dramatic fashion rather than letting it come naturally, he may give Paul the openings he needs. A quick counter, a clean shot, a moment of shock. Even a brief stun could change the momentum and send shockwaves through the arena. The most dangerous scenario, and the one that troubles many fans, is the simplest. Jake Paul gets hit clean, early, and hard. The fight ends abruptly, and questions are raised about whether it should have ever happened. Heavyweight knockouts are not like others. They are violent, unforgiving, and potentially like. This is why the sanctioning of the fight has been so controversial. The risk is real, and it cannot be ignored. Yet boxing has always lived in this uncomfortable space between danger and spectacle. It has always been a sport where men bet their bodies for glory, money, and legacy. This fight is not an anomaly in that sense. It is merely a modern reflection of boxing's evolving landscape, where social media stars collide with traditional champions, and the lines between sport and entertainment blur. For Jake Paul, the reward is immense. A victory, even by decision, would redefine his career overnight. It would silence critics, legitimize his boxing journey, and potentially open doors once thought impossible. World title conversations would no longer sound like jokes. They would become debates. For Anthony Joshua, the reward is far more muted. A win preserves his status. It keeps his name relevant.